This podcast is part of the Planet Broadcasting Network.
Visit planetbroadcasting.com for more podcasts from our great mates.
We're approaching the spookiest time of the year, everybody. I'm not just talking about bloody tax time, because for Caravan of Garbage, this holiday season...
I don't have another award to give you. The last time I gave you the award for the millionth time that joke has been done, and I ran out of balloons. So, I don't know. I guess we wait for 2 million, so, 3 or 4 more weeks and you'll be up to that.
I think that video is also coming up. I don't think that's even out yet, but that's fine. So look, we're getting a new Ghostbusters movie.
That's true.
Yet again.
They've made it.
They made it.
Reviews are in.
There's a boy called Podcast in it or something. I haven't seen it yet.
No, I haven't seen it either.
I am looking forward to it though, but I got to say, I'm not a massive Ghostbusters fan. So what we're going to be doing, we're going to be going through the Ghostbusters Skrilogy. That's Scare and Trilogy, even though they're not that scary, and it's not really a trilogy.
And Skrillex isn't in any of them, as far as I know, unless there's a little kid called Skrillex also in the new one, but I haven't seen it.
Anyways, leave a like.
What if there's a little kid called Dubstep? There might be.
There could very well be. I mean, look, if it was 2014, there would be a little boy called Dubstep.
Yeah.
But leave a like if you could, because we are, of course, starting out with the classic that kicked it all off.
That's right.
1984's Ghostbusters #1.
Big #1.
Now, you are a massive Ghostbusters fan, is that correct?
That's true,
Did I say
am.
Ghostbusters then?
Maybe, let's try it again.
Right. Now, you are a massive Ghostbusters fan. That was intentional. Now, you are a massive Ghostbusters fan, is that correct?
It's true. I've seen Ghostbusters maybe more than any other film.
Even Police Academy 6, which you've seen 12 times in a day or something?
I've seen Police Academy 6 24 times. It's not important. The reasons are not important, James, but I think I have seen Ghostbusters more times than that, yeah.
Okay.
I saw it on TV as a kid, and I loved it just because it's fun, good time Ghostbusting, you know?
It is fun, good time. And look, going back to this, it's a real oddity. But what's interesting to me about this, and I just only touched on this briefly because I'd love for you to talk about it more, it began even more expensive and much, much odder.
Yeah, I mean, it began as Ghost Smashes, as some drafts of the script are called. But Dan Aykroyd, his family was like super into mystical stuff.
Yeah.
So like,
And now he's fine. He's normal. He says normal things.
he sells normal vodka in normal bottles. But so his father wrote a book called The History of Ghosts.
Yeah.
His mother had claimed to see ghosts. I think his grandmother claimed that she could speak to the dead. And I think his great-grandfather, he was a mystic.
Okay.
He was a dentist, but he was also a mystic. And he held seances to see if he could speak to the dead. I think he had some correspondence with Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
Right, okay.
The writer of the Sherlock Holmes stories, because they both shared an interest in mysticism
And the occult.
and the occult and all that sort of stuff. So like his household was all about this kind of stuff. But also I think he also loved movies and Hollywood and all that sort of stuff. And like the golden years of Hollywood, there were a bunch of like, you got a comedic actor and they encountered some ghosts and spooky stuff.
Like
There's
Abbott and Costello.
Abbott Costello.
Whatever,
There was like some Bob Hope movies where he encountered some spooky situations, all that sort of stuff. So I think he kind of wanted to combine the two, but he also wanted to be a vehicle for a couple of his friends as well. So he wrote it for specifically himself, John Belushi, and Eddie Murphy.
Yes, that's right.
As like a trio. But what's interesting is the original script has quite a few similarities to what eventually came up on screen. Like the Ghost Smashers or the Ghostbusters or whatever they were going to be called. They were still like blue collar guys in jumpsuits, and it was still kind of like just a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it. But also it was set in the far flung future of the year 2012, and it was also like covering time and space and dimensions, and they were flying out into space and all sorts of kind of crazy stuff. It was like an intergalactic adventure kind of thing. And so he brought this to Ivan Reitman, who was like, this is too much. We cannot do this.
This is a $300 million movie.
Yeah, and movies don't even make that money currently, so this will absolutely not happen. So he brought in Harold Ramis, who had written, I think, on Stripes, the army comedy with Bill Murray also.
It was the In the Army Now of its day.
That is, yes, yep, terrific. And then they basically all worked on it together. And came up with kind of a very much more grounded kind of thing, which I think absolutely works in its favor.
Totally.
I mean, and production-wise, of course, John Belushi did pass away while Dan Aykroyd was writing it, which is very sad. And then Eddie Murphy was doing Beverly Hills Cop, I think, and that would have clashed. So they brought in Bill Murray, of course, to take Belushi's role. And then Harold Ramis was just like, I'd like to be in this.
Well, he's my favorite character in this because what I love about, all of these guys, but I guess him in particular, he plays it so straight. And they are just normal kind of knockabout kind of losers. And they have backgrounds in academia.
Of sorts.
But then you look at Bill Murray and it's just like, he's just been collecting a check, just doing nothing clearly since university.
What's interesting because according to him, he has degrees in parapsychology
and regular psychology.
But they're both depicted with such disdain, and I think maybe that was the point. Like there was a point in the 80s where people were like psychologists, as if so
nonsense.
So I don't know, but he's just this sort of he's just sort of this guy who's been grifting through academia. At one point, Ray says to Venkman, "You've never been outside of college." That's like. This dude's 50. What are you? He's always looked 50.
That's the funny thing. They're all like mid to late 30s, these guys, which is crazy because that's like the age we are now. And I always just assumed that these guys were always 55 years old. You know?
But you're right. The humor derives from like, we got one grifter. We got one guy who's like super earnest and excited, which is kind of like Dan Aykroyd's whole deal. We've got the deadly serious Egon, whose humor is comes from this idea of like, He's taking this so seriously. There's no room for jokes or fun in this.
Well, one of my favorite lines in this is where I think Venkman says to him, "This is like the time you tried to drill a hole in your head." And he said, "That would have worked if you hadn't stopped me."
Yeah.
And look, I don't know what he was doing there, but assuming he was just trying to drill a hole in his head, that would have worked if somebody didn't stop him.
That drill would have gone all the way through. Yeah, and then of course we get Ernie Hudson as just a guy who's willing to
take a check.
I mean, it's New York and jobs are probably hard to come by. Yeah. So he's gonna take this job. And again, like that combination, I've always loved this idea of like, these absolutely huge supernatural forces just combined with just a grimy, awful New York, just a regular New York with people yelling out of windows and whatever, and just these people messing with forces beyond human comprehension.
Yeah.
But by the end, they're just like these. Just these blue collar tired dudes like plumbers, or like the original script, just like rat catchers or pest controllers. They're just over the top of like the ectoplasmic containment unit, just smoking cigarettes. They don't care anymore,
Yeah, I love that. I love they're just in grimy overalls. You know what I mean? And they're also like they're not great guys in general. They are in it for money, obviously. There is the scientific aspect of it, but I guess it's more the Venkman character, but like he sucks. Like he's like openly hitting on everybody all of the time. You know what I mean? But the way that they kind of get around that is the villains are so like bureaucracy and like the dean is kicking them out and Walter Peck's like, I'm just trying to shut them down or whatever. I love all of that so despite them, just being tired and like struggling with flights of stairs and falling over each other, they're slightly better than everyone else.
That great moment where they we're skipping ahead a little bit, but the moment where they arrive at the Ivo Shandor's haunted building and, the final confrontation and all the crowds are cheering for them and they're there and they've got the sirens on and people are chanting Ghostbusters and then they go into the building, they're like, oh, geez, there's a lot of stairs in this building.
Look at this matte painting. It goes forever.
Right?
But yeah, like you mentioned, though, I love how like tactile and gross the world is. And it is like the ghosts element of that. I love seeing the behind the scenes because a lot of it is like puppeteering, which they then, for lack of a better word, cut and paste into the live action footage. But even like the city and the cars and the tech and like you mentioned, just like smoking cigarettes with sweaty armpits, you know what I mean? Just so great. And I love that also so much of this is improv, or apparently it is anyway. Like they had the rough idea, but the fact that I think a lot of movies just go into it, and I think the newer one is probably, as in the 2016 one, is probably guilty of this. It's just like, just improv and riff and we'll find it in the edit. And that often falls down.
Yeah.
But there's so much here that they could piece together into something,
That's true.
It's so weird as well. It's just a weird, like, it's hard looking at it now, considering that, like, we've had so much since then. But in 1984, like, movies were like The French Connection and whatever. And I know there was Star Wars, but this is even like a level weirder than Star Wars.
There were two types of movie, The French Connection and Star Wars.
But like, there's another dimension in the fridge, the Ecto-1, like as a concept I love. There's the bit where Dan Aykroyd gets a blowjob from a ghost in a dream. But it's the deleted scene, and that was a full thing that really happened.
That's true.
Originally. But even things like when they have to confront a god at the end, and they're just like, oh, I don't know about this, and there's just like demon dogs and giant marshmallow men. Just all of that. It's so bizarre. It shouldn't work. Like, this should have come out and it should have been like, what's that movie with
R.I.P.D.
That is a great example. Yeah. I think R.I.P.D. tried to do that, but what's the movie from the 80s with one's a cowboy and one's the RoboCop guy and
What?
the
Peter Weller's in it.
Yeah.
It's the it's got a long name.
Yep.
The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension.
Yes.
There we go.
This could have very well just
definitely,
become
yeah.
that,
But I think it's the strength of the characters.
Yeah.
I think it's the strength of like the relationships. Like we get all the performances, like we mentioned, all the main guys, great. We get Sigourney Weaver as someone who she can't explain what's happening, but she also doesn't believe anything else anybody else is telling her. Like, and why would you? Like Venkman's over and he's like, it's probably a supernatural spook. She's like, you're a creep and a liar, and I don't believe you. Why,
Even when they kiss at the end, like, it doesn't feel...
Oh, no, I think
No, they're kind of like, they're pursed lips, and it's just like, oh, I don't like this.
Look, all I'm saying, the one credit I'll give to Venkman, he doesn't take advantage of her when she becomes
Exactly,
Zor.
yeah.
But at the same time, he does have like a bunch of Thorazine in his pocket too.
Well, I looked into this, and that has been since used as a date rape drug, but it wasn't like known for that at the time.
Well, if we're gonna, I'm wondering because I think at the time it might be.
It is weird he has it on him, though.
It is weird. Like, it is weird that he has it on him. I'm wondering because sometimes they used to prescribe it for ADHD or ADD, as it was called at the time. So maybe it was his.
Oh, okay,
Or
yeah.
maybe it was Ray's. Maybe he stole Ray's.
Yeah, you
if
might be
there's
right.
one character in this movie that might have ADHD, it's the guy going like, "Wow, this place has got a fire pole." Whee!
I love that it's got a fire pole.
Yeah.
That's like that station as well. Incredible, right?
Yeah, yeah.
What a location.
I know,
what a
right?
find. Yeah.
Rick Moranis as
Oh,
just
the best.
Just a beautiful loser living his best life. Just
That was supposed to be John Candy originally, wasn't
Oh,
it?
yeah,
and he
that's right.
I think he was going to play it like German and whatever, and they were like, no, thank you. And they.
Okay.
So if you look at all the storyboards, it's all like,
yeah.
it all looks like John
That's
Candy.
true.
Yeah.
Moranis gets a lot more play in the sequel, so we'll probably get to
Yes.
that. Annie Potts as Janine. Just
do they throw away that kind of love story between her and Egon?
yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, because that becomes more like a that's not looked at all in the second one, is it?
No,
For those two. Yeah.
no, but I think it may be addressed in Afterlife.
Okay,
Again, a movie
right.
we haven't seen yet. Just as this overworked, again, just happy to do the job, but my God, is she sick of what's happening here?
Yeah.
And just one, everybody, but like one more major one. Everybody, including like the guy at the Sedgwick Hotel, like smoking a cigar at the bottom of the elevator shaft, is just like, I'll take the next one. That guy's great. But also like William Atherton as Peck.
Incredible.
Just this barely contained fury of this EPA guy who's clearly had to do this 1,000 times, but now there's ghosts as well. Yeah. And he's right too.
Yeah, he's totally right.
That reactor storage containment thing, that was going to explode no matter what. If they hadn't switched that off, it would have gone up the next week anyway. I think,
Totally,
'cause
yeah.
it was full.
It was full of ghosts.
Full of ghosts.
I've got some amazing trivia about that guy. I also want to make mention of the song, which is incredible. It's an incredible song.
Well, yeah, I mean, maybe you probably know this, but obviously Huey Lewis and his News, they were approached to do that, a theme for Ghostbusters, because they did Back to the Future. A couple of songs for Back to the Future, including, The Power of Love, which is a lovely song about the power of love.
It's a curious thing.
And
yeah.
Out of Time, which is the very specific one, where it's like, I'm getting on my skateboard, I'm getting in a car, we're going through time.
I'm Marty McFly. Oh no, I'm in the Old West. Yeah, I love that song.
But I think Huey Lewis didn't want to be known as like a soundtrack guy, or just be
Okay.
like typecast as a guy who, you just get him for soundtracks and nothing else. So he declined. So they got Ray Parker Jr. And then I think he was sued because apparently it seems it's too similar. But I don't feel that at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe at the time, maybe there was a lack of this sort of kind of like sort of new wave pop vibe going on.
No, I didn't get that sense at all. And look, I haven't lined the notes up. to see if
Sure, yeah.
I'm not a musically inclined person, but no, I didn't get that sense.
There's also some
at
other
all.
like very interesting, like spooky new wave music. There's the scene where they all the ghosts escape, and it's got that kind of vague like it's magic.
Yeah,
It's magic. That's a cool track, and it's like difficult to find. the guy's name is Mick Smiley.
Okay.
And he made that song, and then he wrote some other songs for some other artists, and he kind of like quietly disappeared off the music scene. He
Like
kind
magic.
of like, it's like magic. It's magic.
Ghosts running amok in New York. I could just watch that all day.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because like a lot of that stuff is quite janky and seeing like the demon dogs like stop motion their way around. Like it's not good.
But it's also
it doesn't matter at all.
But it's also what I love about the mythology is that, and this is this
terror dogs, I should say as
terror
well.
dogs. Yeah. What I think is interesting about the mythology is we get so many hints to a lot of stuff, but it's never fully explored, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think these days every reference to torgs and giant slaws and etc. has to be would have to be explained somehow. But in this, it's just like there's demons and there's also people coming back from the dead. Like that dead cabbie is coming back.
I think that's better though than being like, well, okay, so Slimer was a regular man and now he looks like this is a ghost. But even though some ghosts don't look like that, some ghosts just look like decomposing taxi drivers or whatever. Like you don't get into it because the more that you do, the dumber it gets.
That's true.
You know? And I think because this movie...
But to answer your question, James, a torb is like a giant eel, but it's got arms.
Okay, yeah,
It's
that
like a
was my
giant electric
question.
eel.
Yeah. But like by not touching on any of that, you know, you don't need to because... Sorry, you don't need to touch on any of that though because the characters and the story move so well that you don't think about it. Be like, wait a minute, this doesn't... How is he eating hot dogs? You probably know about this though, because you're the number one Ghostbusters fan. And if anyone's in here thinking that they're the number one Ghostbusters fan, I don't know what to tell you. Nick Mason's going to stab you for saying that.
Leave a like to prove I'm wrong.
So, yeah, there was a controversy surrounding the name. Filmation owned the rights to a show in the 70s called The Ghostbusters.
3 words, the Ghostbusters, yeah.
So the plan was initially to film both versions, as in like, we'll get everybody chanting Ghostbusters.
The crowd, yeah.
We'll put the sign up saying Ghostbusters, then we'll set everything up again and we'll go with Ghost Breakers. And we'll just do that every time. And very early on in filming, they just went, we're not doing this. Like, this is going to take forever. So they had to work something out legally. And it turns out that the guy who ended up being the head of Filmation worked on this for a time and like waved it through, luckily.
Yeah, I mean, I think it still cost them $500,000, but they eventually got it through. Yeah, and of course, this of course led to the live action TV series, The Ghostbusters, becoming an animated series, which led to the
Had a gorilla in it. I was so confused.
a haunted car. Yeah, exactly, and which then led to the animated adaptation of this Ghostbusters being called The Real Ghostbusters, which is explained in story, James.
Why is he blonde though?
I mean, for action figure purposes.
Oh, yeah.
Because otherwise it's just 4 Bill Murrays.
That's a good point.
No, it's 3 Bill Murrays and a...
You're not going to get those likenesses right.
No, it's 3 Bill Murrays and
an
an Ernie Hudson, but yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Would you like some trivia, but ghost trivia?
Yes.
As I've named this section.
Yeah.
So Slimer was supposed to be based on John Belushi, right?
Okay, yeah.
And there's an interesting documentary on Netflix among many that talk about, these movies. But at the very last minute, they were like, can you make this look like John Belushi? And he's like, well, it's tomorrow. Like, we're filming it tomorrow. I can't. So when they came in, he just went, yeah, I did it. And they went, great. Looks just like him. I just love that idea.
He's got hot dogs falling out of his butt just like John Belushi did.
Winston also was going to have a much bigger role, obviously, because it was written for Eddie Murphy. But when Bill Murray came on, it's like, oh, we've got a funny guy. We'll give most of the stuff to that.
Apparently, when Reitman and Ramis brought Bill Murray in, to the project, and they're like, do you want to do a pass on this script? He's like, no, you guys got it. It's fine. I'll just do whatever. But again, Ramis had written for Bill Murray and Stripes. So they're like, I think we got the voice of this guy.
Yeah,
so.
they'll figure it out. So yeah, the moment where Venkman gets slimed, that was supposed to be Winston. There was a bunch of stuff like that, and Ernie Hudson wasn't particularly happy about, because it's like in the script it says that I'm doing this, but now I'm entering the movie like 50 minutes in or whatever. Yeah. Which, I can understand. But he does get, he does return for the sequel, which is something. Pee Wee Herman was going to be Gozer at one point.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I don't think that's as good. I like the idea of like a gender fluid kind of god that's just like, hey, what's up? What's going? Like David Bowie-esque kind of
for sure. Yeah.
nightmare creature.
I wonder also, like, Pee Wee Herman, I think maybe would have thrown people out of the movie at that point.
I think so, yeah.
But I mean,
he can do other voices
definitely.
and stuff,
that's probably true. Yeah.
But still, I agree.
But he was at the peak of his Pee Wee Herman-ness.
It was the peak of his This isn't a joke. This is going in the extended version.
Terrific.
I didn't have anywhere to go with that. Okay, so Harvey Comics, the creator of Casper, sued the producers claiming the ghost in the logo was too close to Casper. So the court ruled against them, stating that there were only so many ways you could draw a ghost.
That's true.
Which I guess, and also it's got a pointed head and Casper's got a round head.
That's true.
Yeah.
And you know, the Ghostbusters logo ghost is a generic ghost, whereas Casper is a boy who died. He tragically died. He fell down a well.
Is that
and
true?
He drowned. No, I don't know. I don't know how he... I don't remember that movie, and they never explained it in the children's comics.
Yeah.
Strangely, they never explained how the boy died.
Interesting, really interesting.
It's not Richie Rich's corpse, just to be clear.
That's a theory that's been posited, hasn't it? Now, this is all William Atherton trivia from here on out, Mason.
This is Walter Peck.
Yes.
Okay, great.
So for the big Marshmallow Man, the Stay Puffed Marshmallow Man, which I always just assumed was a real product that we never got in Australia, but it's a combination of like the Michelin Man and the Pillsbury Doughboy and whatever, isn't it?
Well, yes, it is. Well, speaking of, just as a side note, speaking of products we didn't get in Australia, when I was a kid, I was obsessed with the idea of the Twinkie because we didn't get a Twinkie.
Oh, yeah, right.
But of course, there was, you know, they eat and enjoy Twinkies in that movie.
Yeah.
But we didn't get them until like several years later. And I remember being at the supermarket with my mum and being like, can we please have these Twinkies? I've been dreaming about these Twinkies for my
I'm the
time.
number one Ghostbusters fan.
I'm
I'll
a
stab
Ghostbusters-
anybody who says
I'll
it otherwise.
stab you, mum. But please can I have these Twinkies? And we got like a big packet of like 10 Twinkies, and I undid the packet at home, and I just put the first one in my mouth, and I'm like, this is awful. These are the worst thing. These are physically unpleasant.
It's the fake cream that gets me. Yeah.
Just go to a bakery.
Bakery.
Anything's better than Twinkies, honestly.
And they don't last forever. That's a myth.
That's true.
That's a myth, Mason.
Yeah.
So anyway, they used shaving cream for the Stay Puffed Marshmallow Man when he exploded, right?
Yeah.
It's also interesting that Bill Murray has like no shaving foam on him like at all, really. And everybody else is just soaked in it. So before the big drop on William Atherton, the actor asked Reitman if it was going to hurt. And he said, he didn't know. But one person we know did have an allergic reaction to the shaving foam. So what they did, they unleashed 75 pounds of shaving foam onto a stuntman to prove it was fine. And it completely flattened.
Yeah.
So they took out half of the shaving cream.
75 pounds of shaving cream it still weighs 75 pounds.
It's that, yeah, exactly. It's that ton of bricks, ton of feather situation, isn't it? So they took half of it out and then they went from there. But this, I think, is my favorite bit of trivia. And I absolutely think that William Atherton has like come around to this since. And he plays like a sleazebag in Die Hard and whatever.
That's true,
know?
yeah.
But Ivan Reitman recalls running into William Atherton, who plays Walter Peck, about a year after the film came out. Instead of warmly greeting Reitman, Atherton was genuinely angry and upset, telling the director that he couldn't go into a bar without people wanting to pick a fight with him. People would also scream at him in public. Likewise, Ramis recalls Atherton telling him about a time when he was walking in downtown New York and a bus full of tourists yelled "Dickless" at him.
There it is. Well, I mean, and you know, that's a mark of a great character.
I agree.
And a great performance of that character, because that's a character you love to hate.
But he's right.
He's right, though.
Anyways, I want to talk about box office before we wrap things up.
Let's do it.
You might be thinking, like, why do they keep making these? You know?
Sure.
What are they doing? The reason is because Columbia Pictures, their highest grossing film of all time, when adjusted for inflation, is this.
Yeah.
So it cost $30 million. $500,000 of that was for the name Ghostbusters. And it made $295 million at the box office.
Which is, I believe, the highest grossing comedy of all time at that point.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder if it's probably one of the hangovers right now.
Probably one of the
Yeah,
hangovers.
sure. Yeah. But here's something I thought was incredible. So Bill Murray only agreed to do the movie if Columbia financed a remake of The Razor's Edge. So this was like a World War I drama or something. I don't know. I haven't watched it. Anyway, it had a very mixed reception. It made $6 million at the box office on its $12 million budget. Ooh. So there you go. People would just rather see Bill Murray roll in at literally the last minute, which is what he did. They didn't know whether he was going to show up on the day and then just be like, I don't know, I'll just say whatever, I guess.
Sure.
I'm just going to insult everybody on set. I'm going to keep moving. Yeah.
Terrific.
All in all, it is definitely the pinnacle of this series.
Yeah, I think it kind of is.
And I kind of wish it was a one and done. I think there's some other good stuff in other properties like since then. And
it's
movies.
always nice to see those characters.
Totally.
Whether it be in a sequel or a video game or this new thing.
Yeah.
Some of them are going to be in that, I guess.
Yeah.
Just some miscellaneous things that I forgot about. The librarian is also great. A
yeah.
line reading of like, her father thought he was Saint Jerome.
All right, yeah. What a world.
And also, I love there's a couple of moments where it nearly becomes a musical. Did you notice that?
No.
It just nearly becomes a musical.
Oh, when they're on the steps of...
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
It's wild.
That must be...
Every single time. I've seen that movie so many times, but every time I see that, I think it's going to be like, call it faith, call it hope, call it... And then it's just not a musical.
It's just not. Anyways, this has been Caravan of Garbage. We do this here every week. We'll be back next week to talk about Ghostbusters #2.
Ghostbusters go bananas.
That's right. In NYC.
That's right.
Because they heart NYC, don't they, Mason?
You better believe it.
It's actually the one that I saw first, so I have a lot of fond memories for it, but I haven't seen it in decades.
It is the first Ghostbusters I saw in the cinema.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, that big cinema experience for me.
Mm.
And let me tell you, I loved it. Do I still love it? Don't know.
But if you do have any suggestions for Caravan of Garbage, please leave them below. And if you do like seeing these early, because maybe you do, if you head over to bigsandwich.co, you sign up. It's like our Patreon. It's $9 a month. There's bonus podcasts, there's movie commentaries, there's early videos. There's just a bunch of stuff going on there if you are interested, including our podcast, The Weekly Planet, where we talk movies and comics and TV shows, goes out ad-free a day early on Sunday as opposed to Monday.
Terrific.
I'm at Mr. Sunday Movies on Twitter.
I'm at Wikipedia Brown on Twitter.
And we think Ghostbusters is... The good first one is good.
It's good.
That's what we think.
Good movie.
Yeah. All right, let's go.
Grab that jammy, guys. We'll see you next week.
Goodbye. This podcast is part of the Planet Broadcasting Network.
Visit planetbroadcasting.com for more podcasts from our great mates.
I mean, if you want. It's up to you.